So yeah, what we're going to talk here, we've got some very experienced people who work with brands of different types, different levels. And what we're going to sort of quickly talk about some of the kind of key issues, I guess, that we discussed before. We've got some new arrivals that haven't been introduced. So maybe if you two lovely folk would like to introduce yourselves. I obviously know who you are, but maybe once you can say who you are and what you do.
My name is Devin Radford. I work at Fox. I handle mobile games. We mostly have a licensing business, but we're dabbling in other areas now as well.
You're dabbling?
Dabbling.
I'm Macy. I work at Hitcents. We're a mobile game developer and publisher, and I run business development and strategy.
Fantastic. And obviously we have Dan from EA and David from WG Sales. So I guess I wanted to, we've got a lot of different kind of brands represented here really, kind of video games, sports, and then Macy kind of work a little bit with CAA and maybe some celebrity stuff, a bit more ways that, and obviously you have the odd TV and film license that you might be able to use. I guess the question is, can any AAA brand any big brand convert to mobile? Is any brand a good brand? I guess you said, David, earlier, you kind of suggested it probably wouldn't be necessarily. Is anyone leaping on that?
I just think there's a lot of uniqueness to mobile, and you have to understand how transferring any brand to mobile may find new audience or lose a lot of the audience that you were hoping to leverage on the mobile.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Is there any brands that we can? I guess we're not going to name names here. But I mean, we can see it, for instance, in what we're in kind of Bluhm's approach. They've been very incredibly successful with Kim Kardashian, and then they've tried to repeat the trick with other sort of brands, and it hasn't really paid off in the same way. They had Katy Perry, they had James Bond, they've got the other Kardashian sisters now. Is there kind of a reason why you think that's happening? Not to criticise Glue, but is that just because they got lucky the first time, or just because it's harder with celebrities? I don't know.
I think it's not really fair to talk about this without Chris here.
Well, he was supposed to be here. But
I know.
But no, it's more that not he's destroying what they've done, but is there a reason why the same thing doesn't work both times? Is it execution thing, or is it more of a they were kind of lucky the first time?
I think no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing games or other kinds of content, the content's got to fit the audience.
Yeah.
And so, maybe the gameplay patterns and the style of gameplay was more suitable to Kim Kardashian's audience, and perhaps Katy Perry's audience just likes to sing with her. And I think you have to think very hard about that when you're making any content, whether it's games or television shows or film. And there's going to be an audience for one thing, and they'll want to interact with their fans or the content in one way, or not in another. Sure. It's a vague answer for you.
Sure, that's good. That's a good answer.
I also think to some degree it's about how you activate that brand. Like you can't just put a brand on something and then just sit back and see it be amazingly successful. You have to activate that in a way that makes sense for the brand and for the audience. And I think Kim did a pretty amazing job as to how much he did push that game. And I think if you don't do that, then you don't get all the value. So.
I think it helps that her fans are kind of cultish too. They'll do whatever she says, so that helped.
It's cultish, so the secret is to have people obey without question. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, but I could also see, if you see a Katy Perry concert, she's followed by, 60 million people on Twitter, something like that. But if you see her concert, she's got hundreds of screaming fans that are fainting, so they seem cultish to me too. So, I don't know. I don't think I know the answer, but
Yeah, no, it's not a criticism at all. It's just more of an interesting, clearly that seems to be the way forward, and certainly it doesn't seem as obvious the way forward now. Take away from kind of celebrity brands and about kind of game IP. Obviously, Bethesda were kind of pleasantly surprised by the success, I think, of kind of Fallout Share. I know they kind of marketing manager quite well. They weren't expecting this to be their bigger revenue driver. It was really a marketing piece. Are you kind of surprised there's not been more kind of classic game IP brought after that? Because there've been a few things, but it's not kind of been an avalanche of game IP coming to mobile, as in PC console.
There's a lot of gauntlets in getting everybody's been scouring the earth for traditional, old, reminiscent IP. It's not a lack of energy or activity or trying. There's a lot of licensing gauntlets, there's a lot of financial gauntlets, and then you have all the things that are valid. in terms of the creative effort that's a good match for it. And then, of course, you know, as Dan mentioned, the participation of the brand to help you activate it properly and really execute it well. And you add all that up, and it's really tough to make deals happen.
Yeah, and you can't really make a game for a couple $1 million anymore, you know, produce it and then publish it and have any kind of launch. So, you know, taking a big risk on what could potentially be a small or medium-sized hit, it's challenging.
Yeah, I'd argue that we, to some extent, we do it on sports as well. Like we take a number of products that are HD focused or historically PC focused and turn them into mobile games, and have done and will continue to do that. So I think it goes beyond that. I also think, to your point, it costs more to build a game, and if it costs more, it takes longer. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see more of these things happen. It wasn't that long ago since.
Yeah, it's just
that
that,
happened.
yeah.
So it may take.
It might take a year.
Takes a while for people to copy and follow and
Doesn't happen,
turn into something.
Yeah, okay. I guess one of the things that's always interesting, which I always like to ask you when I want on, you obviously are a rights holder. You've got some relatively big brands, and you work with independent developers or maybe your own studios to create it. So what is it that you're looking for as a kind of brand holder for a partnership? Because other guys are more about creating games, obviously, and brands. But what is it from your side you look for a public?
You mean besides money?
Besides money.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to get. You know, I think I feel lucky that I get to work with all these great brands. I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff that we work with. The first thing we look for is passion, honestly, and a fit with the content. When we find studios that are so psychotic about, look, Tiny Toes is a great example with Family Guy. Their team was obsessed with the show. They had encyclopedic knowledge. You just could tell that they were going to take care of the brand and really make it come alive on mobile, and they did it. So that's the number one thing we look for, and a whole bunch of things after that.
Yeah, okay, no, I guess a good answer. And I guess from the flip side, I mean, David, your talk was really, really good, and it was really interesting the way you're kind of thinking about holistically all the different aspects of the thing around the brand, and is it a Q score? That's something I'm going to go check out. But when it comes to kind of evaluating brands, and to maybe work with or partner, how does that work? Do you go through a process of various scores or something?
I'm not sure how far we can go. It may be somewhat of a false positive to think I can increasingly quantify the value of a brand. As Devin points out, there's a passion, if you pitch our games business to an investor, a good person are going to just walk away and say it's a hits-based business and not interested. Yeah. And we've gotten to the point now where we can test, take metrics, and improve our chances of some level of financial performance and success.
Yeah.
And there's big mistakes we can avoid, but there's still a hits-based element that you just can't back. So we're going to try as hard as we can to quantify the value of a brand based on every click and behavioral score and algorithmic approach we can. But at the end of the day, there is a big element of breathing passion into the brand, breathing passion into the consumer experience, and having that pay off in an emotional connection that you can't quantify.
Yeah.
And I think the buy-in from the brand is super important too, because if they're passionate about your game idea, then you can work out a good deal and have a great relationship. And obviously, the more the brand is into it, the more marketing's involved and all of that. It's definitely, just a partnership from both sides being extremely into the idea and kind of blazing forward together on it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned marketing. It's an interesting thing. I mean, it's kind of said in a realistic way, maybe in a cynical way, that brands, as part of one of the reasons people are going with brands and just looking for brands is the shortcut to marketing. That's their number one kind of rationale, often told by in discussions in bars usually. But is that really the case, or is it purely about kind of getting into kind of audiences and cutting down your UA costs, or is that just a small component of the whole? Difficult question.
Small, large, primary, pick your term. It has to be because there's a financial cost both up front. Can be a huge creative cost in terms of your freedom of building the game you want to build, because now you've got brand owners that have an interest in what you're going to build. In fact, I should probably go back one question and say it goes both ways. In a previous life, this was more apparent than it takes so long to make games. You know, I've maybe got, I don't know, a dozen or so big brand game things behind my belt, but in a previous life, we worked with TV production teams to create a company called GoTV, a bunch of video and mobile. And the production teams all had very different levels of passion for putting something on mobile. And so it goes both ways. You have to be passionate about their brand, and you have to really take great care of it and breathe your creative juices into it. But they have to be equally excited about this new frontier of opportunity, and it gets into the activation. How are they going to help you? How are they going to work with you on the creative, approve things, be responsive, be engaged, and be helpful, right?
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. If they're not entirely passionate and they see it as, it's just kind of a little bit of gravy, and you know, as long as it's hands off for us, we don't care. A lot of times you can't achieve the result you're looking for.
Yeah.
But I think the UA cost, getting back to that question, the economics are so high on CPI right now that has to be your, I would just use the word primary economic benefit. Certainly these other things factor into it, but it's the biggest financial piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting talking about the relationship with the close relationship required with the brand or the content producer. Obviously, like, you know, EA couldn't be more sort of into these kind of sports now. They get everywhere. I got another business works for the Premier League a bit. I know that EA's into everything.
I mean, it's a big part of what we do. I mean, obviously for sports, I don't believe you. I think it's very difficult to be in sports without some form of brand license or type relationship, I think. And only because that's really, at least in the world of sport, that's what means authenticity.
Yeah.
So if you're not licensed, all of a sudden you're not really true to the sport. Therefore, in terms of going back to that world that you're trying to immerse people in, it's just not authentic to the world, so people can't connect with it as deeply. So I think for sports, it's very difficult to break through without some form of license. I actually don't see it as a shortcut. I just see it as a base requirement for authenticity, as well as just for the story and the fiction of putting together a sports property. It doesn't make things easier. To your point, David, it often makes things harder in terms of the type of game you want to build. But I think it's almost a minimum price of entry, at least in the sports context.
There was a Japanese sports developer that necessarily had all of it licensed. I can't remember the name of them now. They're quite
it's
small.
not exclusive. Exclusive, yes. There's a number of products throughout the world that don't have license.
But you were there, that's good.
Of course, I'll go back to the Baywatch volleyball earlier.
Yes.
Also aside, because that certainly was
Yeah, well,
a
obviously,
legitimate sports brand that
They're
killed
very
it.
associated with the world of volleyball, Baywatch.
I've been trying to download that since I heard.
And one to relate to that, which kind of, as you were saying it, kind of sprang to mind, is I remember at one point there were like 5 or 6 Cristiano Ronaldo brand games, not to out his lawyers come after me, but basically, that kind of brings another question. Is there kind of a danger of we're in a space where like other people are competing for the licenses, like famously kind of Warhammer at one point had about 12 licensed kind of games in production or something. Is that a kind of a danger? Because you're using that because you want to stand out, but then someone else is doing it. I mean, so even here we've got...
Like saying I have a Warhammer license?
What? You have a Warhammer, sorry. No, but you have
There's a lot of really well executed or, heavily executed brands out there.
Yeah.
And I do think they can get watered down, and that's part of your calculus.
Yeah, so you kind of watch out on that.
We have a really hard time with that. We obviously got a lot of popular brands and some big hits on mobile, and a lot of interest. So we're paying a lot of attention to windows and making sure we're not launching things on top of each other. But we actually think that a lot of our brands have room to have more than one game. In some select cases, as long as you're really differentiating and creating. I think there's room for a Family Guy soccer game personally, but
Simpsons Series 1, Simpsons Series 2.
yeah, exactly.
I think it's a little bit cliche, but I think the game has to be a good game, which is super cliche to say that. But
like the volleyball game, I imagine was probably the best executed.
I'm actually going to disagree with that. And I'm not going to name names, but we can list a dozen games right now that are financially performing, and they're average games.
We haven't mentioned any of them. We haven't mentioned any of them in this conversation already. I'm sure there's not one.
I mean, some of these brands have done such a great job of pulling a game forward, and it's not a bad game, but it's either a straight copy or it doesn't bring any innovation at all. It's a very safe thing, but the brand has clearly allowed it to perform above the noise.
I don't have any games like that. No, but it's not that our games aren't speaking specifically about our biggest hits, the Simpsons and Family Guy, they're not meant to be, there's no gameplay. It's like, these are really just content aquariums, if you want to use the term.
Yeah, but they're quite meta about it. They're riffing on the whole thing.
They've done it, yeah, they are. The Simpsons did. But you know, in both cases, the content is executed so well. The writing is on point. The writers from the show, you know, everything is done to the highest level of the brand, and people want to interact and play in that world. So
yeah. So again, one piece of advice is kind of is that if you're going to go with a brand, you're looking for the partner, you want the brand that's going to engage with the whole process, not just sell your brand and wander off. Because yeah, without that support, it's kind of hard to do. And an interesting thing, like some of these questions are suggested by our team, and one of the questions, we do a lot about soft launch. We're always looking for interesting things in soft launch, and what's the next cool game, and I'm going to Clash Royale, interesting spots up. But how do you kind of soft launch a AAA like brand game? It's kind of quite hard to quietly put out there because, you know, wow, the fans look to get whiff of it, they've got a whiff of it. It's not one of those things that, you know, you can.
Yeah, even World of Tanks, we couldn't hide that soft launch at all.
Yeah.
It was like, it's out, okay. And so you can't experiment with it as much because you don't want to have a negative, you know, message sent to that game community at all about your brand. So it limits what you can learn from Team Art.
yeah, we just do it. Like with Family Guy, we tried to hide it. It was up on Reddit within like 20 minutes, and we tried to like shut it down, and then we got bad press. It's like, if you need to soft launch the game, which now you do with free play, you just do it. And
You just have to.
yeah, and you know, try and keep it out of the big territories and hope that, you know, you have a bit of runway. But at the end of the day, you need that data before you go global. So depending on the game, of course, but
Yeah.
most of the games we're doing now need soft launch.
It's also hard when you run into scenarios where your main fans aren't where you're soft launching. Like
Okay.
if it's a very, you know, American brand and you're trying to soft launch in Europe and maybe they're not as interested or they're not as engaged because they just don't care about the brand. So you
Yeah.
can run into problems there
I
as
guess
well.
you're not really learning yet what the brand is.
Yeah,
actually doing.
exactly.
That's takes me to another question I was going to ask. And again, Dave, you brought it up earlier, and it's kind of a topic we bring up at a lot of our conferences, is the international nature of the industry, like the mobile industry. You know, 4 of the top 5 are you know, Western markets. And if you kind of cater in Southeast Asia now as well, that's probably, yeah, it's more. So, do you know, very few brands kind of resonate equally in all regions. So, you know, how does that factor in your thinking? You know, is it just that you accept that you're going to just, it's going to exist just in the certain territories, or?
I mean, I'm sure for all of us, we try to get the most global brands that we can, but, you know, there's definitely ones that are more Western-based, et cetera, but it's just, you know, evaluating it and making sure it makes sense for your game and as global as possible, you know?
Yeah.
The ways to inform our strategy is that it's hard to publish a game in APAC from Seattle, in our case, or anywhere else that's not in APAC. There's a lot of local game as a service. There's beyond just translating and truly localizing game. And now there's understanding of local brands. So it's just created another reason why we need a strong partner to be successful in Asia in general, and is going to point us to working with stronger partners and having them bring us brands that make sense to their geographic, you know, expertise.
With a couple of our sports games, a lot of them do have some genuine kind of global appeal, and what we try to do is partner with, so we don't just partner with one league, for example, in a soccer context, we'll partner with a number of leagues throughout the world so we can then leverage those leagues. And then we use our live service engine to put content into the game that's relevant to that location. So we focus on the league, the performance of the league, the players, the teams that are doing well at any given stage, and we've got a Liga versus the Premier League versus whatever it is. And that's where we feel that we're able to engage people at a global level, but also in a way that's relevant locally.
And you guys are launching FIFA Iceland edition this week, right?
We're not talking about Iceland at the moment. It's too cool.
Everybody is.
So has everybody picked up Brexit brand yet? That'll be the latest. That's kind of trending at the moment.
I wish we could capitalize on that.
There's got to be some good come out of it. I'm feeling some.
I was betting on the other vote as well as most of the world. So.
We're all poor. It's fantastic. Again, like not everybody. You guys, you know, really the top level of brands. You kind of look at the top sports leagues, massive PC brands, amazing kind of live TV and film. Like when it comes to kind of working with smaller brands or niches that maybe have kind of millions of fans rather than billions, you know, it's like a stupid question, but is that still sort of valuable? Is that still useful? Because obviously small developers and publishers don't necessarily have the luxury of shopping at, you know, at the very highest level. Is it still, do you still get like an element of the success, or is it so watered down it's not worth it?
Well, I think that's the beauty of mobile is, you know, in the glory days of console licensing, you kind of saw that going down as development costs went up.
Yeah.
And mobile is beautiful because you can license a brand that has a small core audience that is obsessed with the brand. I mean, look at Adventure Time is an example of a small brand that's made a lot of games that people love, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity to have. I mean,
That's not a small brand, I love that.
sorry, yeah, not as big as others.
No, fair enough.
But yeah, I think there's. Look, I want to make a Home Alone game. I think that's going to be successful. So anyone out there want to do that with me?
Apparently recording available for work.
Sure is.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's just a lower barrier to entry, or at least it used to be on mobile than in the console days. So yeah, you can do a smaller brand.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You see a lot of players out there with older brands or kind of more niche things. I just don't know. It's not clear to see how successful it is. Are you going to talk about the brands you're working with, Macy? No, you're not. That's embarrassing. Shortly,
Not yet.
Shortly.
Soon.
Was it when is it? When's the next one coming out? Month?
Soft launch next month.
Soft
Yeah.
launch next month. Okay.
You don't want to break the news here.
It's an opportunity. You can do it. We'll put it on.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay, fine. I guess going to a practical time, what sort of key bits of advice or kind of key techniques or approaches would you kind of advise for developers looking to work with brands? Is there anything, and any absolute do's or don'ts that you should, regardless of the brand? You get
Yeah, okay, all right. I would say again, just have the passion and, you know, coming in looking for, you know, a marketing play or, you know, just a brand slap is not going to be helpful. I think it's really show that you want to create something that's additive to the brand and makes use of it and will speak to the audience. That's the most important thing.
And do people come to you all the time? Are you constantly getting pitches, or you go?
I mean, you know, I'm always at these things, so.
Yeah, you are. I'm always very. Yeah, you're always
I think it's
very
a combination. I mean, we're always out looking for great partners, and we get a lot of pitches unsolicited as well. But
So it's really Clash Royale plus Family Guy.
we are, yeah.
Yeah. Clash Royale plus anything.
How did you know that?
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Genius.
I've been working on an idea. But I guess from your side, like how do you find it? Like from the developer side, how do you find it?
Yeah, I think I just echo what we were saying earlier, which is just make sure that the brand is kind of all in as well, and try to get as much marketing in that contract as you can, and as much exclusivity, but it gets hard depending on who you're working with. But I think another thing that isn't thought about a lot is, you know, you're going to hopefully get a feature if you have a branded IP when it comes out.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of this going on in the IP-based mobile because you're having to pay out to the brand depending on the accounting terms in the contract every 60 days or 90 days or 180 days. So just taking that into consideration when you're kind of putting together your user acquisition budget, that those checks are going to be going out, and trying to figure out how you can kind of keep your user acquisition here or here, hopefully, rather than the up and down motion that we see sometimes.
I think one thing that we try to think about is not just is the brand going to be additive to the game, which I think it has to be, but also brands bring communities to your property. You have an engaged community, and those people have expectations sometimes. So like Dungeon Keeper is a great example where those consumers or those players have very fixed expectations of what a property for that would mean, and what they got was different to that, and then you got an issue. So, and it's as true in sports, and that's why we struggle a little bit for the longest time, and we try to understand now what people expect from a sports game, but in a mobile context. And everybody that are attached to a brand come with preconceived expectations. So trying to understand that and put something in front of them that kind of answers that, but in an effective way is
Yeah, I share an example how I got badly outsmarted in a couple versions of this mobile gaming business ago, and we got smart about it. And the biggest tip I can give anybody out there, a lot of people I think in this audience are probably characterized as indies and probably don't have a lot of money and can't afford a big high risk profile to put a bunch of energy, time, and money into a large brand. But even EA has been really smart, and you forget how they went to a fairly obscure talent in the NFL, Madden, and created an amazing brand out of a retired coach, broadcaster, that just didn't appear to be the guy you'd build an NFL franchise around. And that was very creative. We went to Paramount and we asked for a 21-year-old movie that hadn't been licensed around anything called Top Gun. This was a long time ago. And Top Gun did exceptionally well for us all over the world. It was back Java games, you know, did 6 to go right, 4 to go left. Just awful game exactly, but the brand was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it cost us nothing if we agreed to do Italian Job, which was their new movie that they were about to release. And so we took that on and paid a royalty on that. We got Top Gun for free and wanted to be fantastic.
Wow.
On the sports side, we did, and so I've been in the indie mode as much as I've been in a mode where I can talk about real sizable deals. We had to be creative. We found the most recently retired players we could.
Yeah.
They still had solid brands. Their agents tell them, look, you got 2 years before nobody even remembers you.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we did
To
Barry
educate.
Sands football. We did Sergei Fedorov hockey. We did Barry Bonds baseball when he was in the hiatus over the steroids.
Yeah.
And his brand was still very high, but he was outside of MLB, so we could talk with him directly,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was a lot more efficient. So there are creative ways to find brands that have untapped value or, you know, great value you can build on. And I'm not saying you're going to create a Madden franchise. We didn't with Sanders and Fedorov and Barry Bonds, but we did very well.
So is there any...
Home Alone.
And Home Alone. Any plans for Roy Hodgson FIFA?
But he'll take your call, right?
Yeah, I will. He'll take anyone's call. Bless him. I'm sure the calls aren't very nice these days, but it's time to be frank. So we've got just a couple of minutes left, so I want to kind of throw out, see if we've got any kind of questions from the audience in there. So, come on, I know you're still kind of struggling from the night before. There's a question, oh, is that a question at the back? You just put your arm up. It's stretched concern. No? Oh, that's, okay, Josh's got a question.
I just showed up, so hopefully everyone
Hi,
talked
John.
about
Yeah,
this. But hey, how's it going? So I mean, I think for a lot of the tier 1 IPs, obviously the cost structure has continued to increase. I mean, how do you guys see the trend for those business terms sort of either stabilizing? I think in the sense that sometimes it's, when you think about marketing costs and Apple, Google, like sometimes the sort of business structure is very difficult to make any type of profit. Do folks feel like things are still rising in terms of the business terms, or things are maybe stabilizing? Have we reached kind of the peak from that perspective?
I might offer a surprising positive. I think the brands are asserting themselves, and the value of a brand's ability to get organic downloads is going up relative. And so I think there's an economic equilibrium that's kind of maintained. The CPI costs are so high on your own with an unbranded title, and the value of App Store promotion has diminished greatly, that the value of a brand's ability to download for you is actually higher now.
Thank you, David. Excuse me. Thank you. Good answer. No, we're keenly aware of it too. I think, you know,
But they're all overpriced.
our models changed considerably. There was a time where we needed big MGs and high royalties, and that was kind of the only model we took. And now we're aware of this, and if the business doesn't work for both parties, it doesn't work. So, I think we always try to make things mutually beneficial and hopefully grow the business, and we want to incentivize our partners to grow the business as much as they can. So, no, I don't think the cost structures are getting out of hand. I think we're all becoming more enlightened about these businesses and partnering with the right teams to make great products.
I have one kind of final question. Just, I guess it's brands going away. We obviously had recently in the last month had 2 game brands become major motion pictures. I believe that's part of it. So Angry Birds and Bruel and kind of Warcraft was very big. Do you think there's the games to mainstream brand is something that's going to continue? I'd be amazed if there's not some sort of Clash-related thing from Supercell at some point.
Yeah, I think Activision's going to do it first, right? They're going to have Skylanders, and then we're going to see that's on Netflix, and then we'll see Call of Duty will be a feature film series.
Yeah, we've got actually Assassin's Creed coming out this summer.
Yeah, that's this December.
When's the World of Tanks
Watch.
about? Yeah.
Well, we did a fairly last-minute haphazard tie-in with Fury, which was
Yeah.
a tank game, so we're inching down those
Just have
those paths as well, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your time, and especially after a very quiet night last night. So, come a big round of applause for our panel, please. Thank you. And the left of the day. You have to applaud yourself. Thanks, guys. That's brilliant.